We are talking about the greater good.
Hey there! Welcome to Skatz Chats, your destination for inspiration. Each episode, I chat with mental health professionals and everyday people just like you and me to talk about various wellness topics and the human experience. Get ready to feel inspired with another episode of... Hi there, beautiful soul. Welcome to Skatz Chats. My name is Sarah Katz, and I'm the host of this inspirational podcast, and I want to congratulate you for taking time out of your day to take care of your mental health and wellness, because that's why we're here. It's so important, and that's what this podcast is about, to stress the importance of mental health and wellness too. So thanks so much for coming on and checking us out. In this episode today, I bring on my friend and old coworker, Robbie, to talk about self-acceptance and respecting other people's journeys in life. So Robbie shares his coming out story, and even if you don't identify with the LGBTQ plus community, I think that there's a lot of great messages in this chat that can help you along your journey of self-love and gaining empathy for others ultimately, because both those things are super important in life. Now, before we get into that chat today, I want to let you know that there's multiple ways you can support us if you'd like. You can give us a follow on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, and YouTube right here if you're watching us on YouTube. Hello. You can also check out our merch that's on a donation basis. So if you send a wonderful and kind donation to Skatz Chats podcast to help support the inspiration and this podcast, we'll send you some awesome merch as a huge thank you. And also, we encourage you to leave a comment down below on this YouTube video or leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and let us know what you took away from this episode, because each episode of Skatz Chats is different, and no matter which one you listen to, I think there can always be something, a nice positive message or a message of growth that will help you along your journey in life. So we would love to know what that is for you. So you can always leave us a comment or even DM us on any one of our social channels too. We would just love to hear from you. So without further ado, let's get to the chat with Robbie, and I really hope you enjoy. Well, welcome, Robbie. Thanks so much for coming on Skatz Chats. I'm really excited you're here. Want everyone to know that, yeah, we're coworkers and we turned into friends. So this is fantastic. And ironically enough, you live in New York and I'm here in Los Angeles. So it's funny how you could just make friends, you know, through a screen at this point, right?
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I know you mentioned that you wanted to come on and share your coming out story. And I think sexuality in general is just a good topic to talk about. And I think it needs to be talked about more and just made more, I guess, more of a normal conversation, because I think everyone can just, feel, well, we'll get into it, but feel fear behind expressing, who they are, figuring it out and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So I want to give the floor to you, and I guess just start out with your story and what you wanted to share today.
Okay. So I came out officially when I was 18.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of knew pretty much my whole life growing up. I was always caught playing with my sister's dolls, or wanting to dress up as a princess and sing The Little Mermaid. So it's there was always a part of me that kind of knew, but always tried to suppress it. There's this extra added pressure from society where they try to make you feel kind of like an outcast, or they don't talk about it, or they try to beat around the bush a little bit and not just try to get around that conversation of being gay. And I think having that sort of mentality being put on me at such a young age kind of is the reason why I suppressed it for so long. Because growing up, I was always listening to Lady Gaga, Beyonce. I was always listening to the pop girls, as the gays call them, the little pop girlies. And so there was always just that little part of me that was like, I know, and I wish that I could accept it, and I wish other people could as well. But it took a while to get through that. Because back then, things were very, I mean, I'm saying back then as if it was like a decade ago, but
like 30 years ago, yeah.
Yeah. But like, I would say I was in high school from 2012 to like 2016.
Same. Mm-hmm.
And that era was very different than what it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like definitely like the newer, the younger Gen Z is very much open to that conversation, and is more able to like explore it because there's no shame in them. They're just like we're being ourselves, and like that's it. And I think we were kind of like the beginning cusp of that. And so I admitted it to myself finally when I was like 17, because there was this one friend that I had that I like had extra feelings for that
Mm-hmm.
I like didn't fully understand, because growing up I just never explored it. I always just tried to like push it away, like keep it in the back of my head. And I always tried to like girls and stuff like that. I had a lot of girlfriends, like made out, whatever, but like it never felt right.
Mm-hmm.
So there was always like this part of me that was like, okay, something's up, like this just doesn't feel right to me. And so I always had a lot of girlfriends too. Like I never had any guy friends. I was always surrounded by girls. And so when I was 17, I like sat myself in my room one night, like senior year of high school, and I was just thinking about it. And I was like, when I get to college, like I'm going to be able to be myself. Like I'm going to be able to like finally admit who I really am. And I like looked in the mirror. It was so cliche, ew. But I like looked in the mirror and I was like, I'm gay. And I said it out loud, and I just like really sat in it for like a night. And that kind of changed the whole trajectory of my senior year.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of was like a little bit more myself. And it's so funny because my one best friend like admitted it to me. She was like, no, like I could tell that there was like a shift in you, because like I was always trying to hide it. So I acted a certain way. I was always in sports, even though I wanted to be like in High School Musical, that the production that my school had put on. So it was a lot of like me accepting it, as well as like hoping, the people in my life would accept it as well. So after admitting it to myself, I go to college. I have one more experience with a girl, and I was like, this is it. Like I literally like, why am I even fooling myself anymore? Like I'm in a new environment. This is the perfect place to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I told my like freshman year best friend first, because like the stakes weren't high. She was the first person that I was telling, and it was sort of like, it was easier to tell her because she didn't know me previously.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, this feels like a fresh start. So I tell her, I tell a bunch of my college friends. I did have an experience where someone had told other people for me, and that didn't really feel great. That's definitely something that it's not your conversation to have, and taking that away from someone doesn't feel great.
Mm-hmm.
But some people just don't know their place, and there's not much you can do about it besides, okay, let it roll off, and then you move on. So I had told my sister first, because me and her were very close. So we're only 2 years apart. We constantly we were always playing together, playing house, playing in the kitchen, playing with dolls. Like we were always just like on the same wavelength as kids. And so I told her first. I officially came out as like bi at first. It was like Thanksgiving break, I think, of college, my freshman year of college. I came out as bi, and she was like, okay. And like, it was so shocking to me because she was the one that was the most shocked. And I was like, how are you shocked? Like, it just like blew my mind a little bit, because no one else was. Not a single soul was shocked.
Yeah, but you were like playing with her, when you guys were younger and things like that. So maybe she would have had more of an idea, I guess. Right.
Yeah. But it's like, why I don't know why it shocked her so much, because it's like we did play together all the time. Like we were always playing with dolls. So like,
Yeah.
why didn't you notice?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think she was just like also oblivious because we're both a little ditzy. But yeah, so then I tell my mother, I tell my dad, and they both were just like, we know. So
Aw.
I was like, oh, what do you
Well,
mean?
yeah.
And my mom was like, babe, you used to put a washcloth on your head and like sing Little Mermaid in the shower every night. Like, what did you think? She was like, I used to catch you playing with, your sister's American Girl dolls. So it was kind of like, oh, like I don't have anything to worry about. Like, why was I so afraid for so long? But I think part of it was still me, like just not accepting it because of like, you see things on TV, you see things on the internet, and it's like, there was such a negative connotation with it, and like growing up in middle school, especially, I remember this, like everyone would go around and be like, you're gay, you're so gay, and like use it as a slur. So, in your head, you're thinking, wow, like, I don't want to be that, like, so it's like, there's just this extra added pressure, even though everyone in your life is so accepting of it, which isn't always the case.
Yeah.
I'm very, very fortunate that everyone in my life was super accepting. I mean, I would hope so. My uncle's gay, and he came out long before I did. There's always just been this, like, my grandma took me to my first drag show. So I'm just like very fortunate that my family is so open to gay culture and just like, immersing themselves in it to fully understand, where we are and like, our community, and just being so accepting of it. My family I've never dealt with, that side of it from my family, which I know a lot of people have. And that is definitely one of the most difficult things that you can deal with. It just sucks that I wish I could give advice on it, on like how to cope with that. My only advice would be to just like take yourself out of that situation, any sort of negative situation. And, you really just have to you will find the people that, love you for you. And, sometimes it takes time. Sometimes it won't come with time. And it's just all about, figuring it out as you go. It's definitely a hard thing though. I won't lie.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But I am very fortunate that I had a great experience. The kids in high school, not so much, but high school's high school. So
yes, it is.
I have fully suppressed every memory from high school. So I have actually no recollection of anything that happened.
Oh, wow.
During the years of 2012 to 2016. I had like 2 friends and that was it. I just like, it wasn't, I just remember it being such a dark time for myself because I was like battling this and wanting to be my true authentic self. But we move on. College was my time that I flourished.
Yes.
I had my first experience with boys and it was very eye-opening, let me tell you that. I was like, now this feels right. This is definitely where I should be. But yeah, and then after the fact, there's a whole other can of beans that you open up after you come out. It's like realizing that you weren't really living your true authentic self for your whole life. So now your 20s is to figure that out. And that is probably the most difficult part of it. And also realizing like you'll never get that like teenage romance that you always see like in the movies. And that's why that sort of representation matters. Like a movie like Love, Simon. Like that was the first ever major motion picture that was like solely about a gay couple. And it wasn't like the gay person was like the background character or the sidekick. Like it was a gay love story. And yeah, the elements of coming out were a part of it. But like all in all, it was a gay love story. It was a gay rom-com. And so seeing that came out after I had already come out to everyone. And I went with my mom and my sister, and they both just started crying, and they were like, we never realized that that sort of representation matters, because like your whole life you grow up, like to them everything is normal, and then to me I'm watching these movies and like I can't relate to them. So seeing that and having more of it, I think, is what's helping the newer generation, you know, kind of, okay, like it's okay, you know, to be gay, and like more kids are coming out at a younger age now, and like that is fantastic, you know, because you do know when you're a kid. Like people always, I feel like there's this stigma where they're like, well, they're just a kid, they don't really know, but they know. I knew when I was a kid, having a little, like, what are those called, dandelions, like you blow the wish.
Oh yeah, I think they're just called like weeds, no? Yeah, like the little like flower that comes with it.
Like the white flower that you like blow on, right?
Yeah.
And you're supposed to make a wish. And I used to make a wish that I would be a girl, because in my head I was like, I like boys, but the only thing I knew was that a boy and a girl were supposed to be together. And even though I did have my uncle, I didn't fully understand the extent of like their relationship. So it was kind of like, how do I deal with this? And like as like a 6-year-old, I remember being like, I wish I was a girl so that way I can like boys and like it be okay. And so that is something that like growing, like now that I have come out and I can like look back and reflect, like coming out at a young age like isn't the problem. It's like the societal pressure that like they're too young, they don't know. When we're learning like sex ed starting in like 6th grade, like we're like 10 years old. I remember like learning about like STDs and stuff, and I was like, what? So the conversation about sexuality shouldn't be looked at as like a negative thing, you know, having the open conversation with your children and like making sure that they know that they will be comfortable with you to come out, and like just making sure that they feel loved no matter what. I just saw a TikTok today where like this little boy wanted to wear these little like tap heels to school, and the dad was like, listen, like boys might make fun of you. He was like, but you wear your shoes and you own it. And that is the type of parenting that should be. And like there was a comment that said, the comment said that my kid isn't going out like that, I won't let them get bullied. And the creator responded and was like, no, like that's part of the problem. Like you have to let them express themselves in the way that they want to.
Yeah, it's kind of like bullying in a way if you like prevent them from expressing themselves. Yeah, exactly.
So kids are very in tune with themselves. And you know, those scene from Love, Simon, where she was like, I could tell that there was a switch in you when you became like 12 years old, because that's when you start to feel the pressure of like wanting to fit in, wanting to be popular. And, you know, there is definitely a switch, because I could tell with myself even that, you know, I started to like just turn inward. I got more angry as the years went on. And that's why like eventually it just got to a point where I was like, I can't keep living like this. So, you know, that just like that type of parenting where it's like you let your child do what they want, wear what they want, play with what they want to. Like clothes have no gender. That's a whole other issue, the gender construct.
I was considering doing an episode on that actually in like my first season, but I mean, yeah, there's so much to talk about on that too.
That could be like a whole like 3-part series. Like gender construct is something that is so difficult to get people's mind around, I feel like. And it is very prominent in the gay community to question gender and everything like that. But there's also straight people that do as well. You know, RuPaul's Drag Race this season just had their first straight man as a drag queen. And he was like, the idea of gender is a social construct. He was like, it's a spectrum, you know? And like, even as a straight person, he was like, I identify more female. Like I just like, I gravitate more towards like feminine qualities, feminine things, like he paints his nails, and like that's definitely becoming more popular, to see guys painting their nails, which is a great thing. Normalize it.
I know there was a book that I read about this, and it said in there, like, I wrote a paper on this too, and it said like, why can't we be open to the idea of be excited to the idea of that there could be so many different choices that you could choose, just besides like the standard two that we, have always thought of.
Yeah. It's so like mind-boggling that like people and society as a whole has put a gender on everything. Like, you're looked at as feminine if you like taking baths or doing face masks, which is just basic self-care, or it's more masculine to like cars and like fixing things and tools and all that type of stuff, and like that's a skill that most people should know, is like how to fix something if it's broken. Like, you don't want to be helpless in any situation, and why is that looked at as a masculine trait? So it's like there is this whole sort of debacle that people go through where it's like, how do we get rid of all of that? How do we remove that sort of like, it's so cut and dry, because it's not. And it's the same thing with sexuality. Like, sexuality is not cut and dry. You're not gay, bi, straight. Like, that's not, it's a spectrum, and there's other sexualities as well that, there's pansexual, there's asexual, there's so many that it like, you can't just place it as like, okay, you're one thing or the other. And it's not cut and dry, because there's people that I know that are bi that, a guy that is more attracted to guys, or a guy that is more attracted to girls but is also attracted to guys. And it's just, people need to have like a label for everything, and they need to have this like clear cut, dry explanation of what it is. But that's not how life is. Not everything is cut and dry like that.
Totally. Yeah.
So just like, and things change, as you grow up. And, I know people that there was a girlfriend that I had that was more attracted to girls for a while, but then, eventually she became more attracted to guys, and, whatever. So it's kind of like, everyone's evolving all the time. And I think people have a hard time grasping that concept, because change is something so difficult to deal with. But it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, no, it's not. Yeah, and that can fluctuate like day to day too. And I know for myself, I'm not 100% straight.
Yeah.
So, I'm still like, I guess, figuring myself out in that way, I think too. And I think just to kind of make note that like, it is okay to realize that you're still figuring it out. Like, it's okay to still be figuring it out. Yeah.
Think about it. Like, technology has changed so much in just our lifetimes, and we're only 24 years old. So why is it such a hard thing to understand that like people also change quickly? Like, if the world around us is changing so fast, I think we've lost our ability to adapt. Almost, because it's like everything comes so easily to us now. Like, we have everything at the tip of our fingers, but it's like some people just can't wrap their heads around, the change, or like just people changing in general.
Yeah, it's hard for them to like accept somehow. I mean, maybe that also can like, I don't want to get down the rabbit hole with that, but it can also tie into like religion and what people were taught through that way too, which is totally understandable. Once you're taught like, a certain way is a certain way, it's hard to like, get out of that a little bit too.
Yeah, exactly. And like, even like society as a whole, yes, like we've had this sort of institution in our society for so long that like it is going to take a lot of time to break that down, which there is definitely a shift, and it's definitely starting, which is great, but it's definitely going to take a lot longer to reach, this point of like acceptance. And that comes with gender and sexuality and, everything else under the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And just like unlearning these patterns takes time. And that even comes with yourself too, like unlearning, stuff from your parents. Like it takes a while to unlearn bad behaviors and, toxic mindsets. And it's not that they were necessarily teaching that to you in like, they knew it was toxic and they were like, but it's the matter of like, you have to learn how to break the cycle and break the pattern that is like fallen into your family. So it's the same thing with society. Like it takes a long time.
I think too, I think it's important to talk about like, there could be like judgment from outside forces, like we talked about, like with family and peers, and thank goodness, you didn't really have that with your whole experience. But I think there could be some judgment within ourselves because, we were taught like, a certain way. And I think that it's important to not judge yourself for, being open and curious and like, trying to figure things out, I guess.
Yeah, that's something that I feel like is definitely difficult for people to grasp as well. I know I had a hard time dealing with it and like not judging myself. And I used to literally think that I was going to marry a woman. And I was like, even though I have these sort of feelings, like I'm going to marry a woman, I'm going to have kids, and like, that's it. And like, I wouldn't let that thought escape because I was so afraid of the outside judgment, but also I was like judging myself for like having those feelings. So it's definitely, it's all about like learning, breaking that pattern. And honestly, it does come down to like having that representation and having people talk about it. There's still this sort of like stigma around gay people, and like HIV, AIDS, which is something that happened in the 80s.
Yeah.
And obviously it's still happening today, but there's medicine, that people could be HIV positive and live a long, healthy life. And people still have this stigma of like, gay people are AIDS. It does become a little political, which I know is kind of a dicey topic, but it does. Right. It does become political because now they're playing with our lives. And they're taking away something that is just a basic human right. That shouldn't even be a question. Like, who cares? Is someone pointing at you and saying, you have to marry a man? You have to marry a woman? No one's.
Yeah, like it's not your life.
Exactly. So why does it matter if someone down the street, that's their life? Why does that affect you in any way? So I hate that it is political because it's just people's lives and like, it's just people. Why is it a political issue? Why make it that? And then there's still the conflict of religion. And, there's certain adoption agencies that don't let gay people adopt, or there's certain, now that there's the freedom to religion, and certain businesses can refuse service to gay people. It was like the whole instance with the gay wedding cake, and like this couple was trying to get a wedding cake and they said, I don't support this. So no, I won't let this happen. Yeah. And it's like, why? How does it affect you that much?
I think that's why kind of, the whole thing about, I guess, bringing it back to like sexuality and stuff is that I think, really people are taught to like, as we mentioned in the beginning, like suppress until it's not even a question. You're completely 100% straight, whatever, narrow, whatever. So I think that, maybe the people who are so affected by this is because, I don't know, maybe that they've had, some inkling in their head that was like, maybe I'm not, but like, oh, they were taught from their previous generations too to like suppress. So it's this vicious cycle.
I think that definitely is for some people, for sure. I think that, especially as, the generations have evolved, I think that it is. They probably look at our generation and are like, how can they be so open when we weren't?
Mm-hmm.
And so, and here's the thing, gay people have been around forever.
Oh, hell yeah.
Ancient Greece, come on. We know what they were doing in those steam showers. So it's like, you know, it's not like a new concept.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that has been around forever.
I did want to make sure everyone like saw your shirt too, because I know you wore your shirt on purpose for today, and it's so cute with the skeletons, but what does it say?
It says, kiss whoever the fuck you want.
Hey, there you go. That's a great way, and like, you know, do your thing. You know, like whatever. Yeah, and I think just the world is becoming so much more accepting of it, and more generations and things like that too. And I think that's what's helped me in a way, like be more accepting of like exploring my own sexuality, you know? It's just hopefully we're on the right track in the world. I don't know, to become nicer and, you know, more accepting.
Yeah. Be kinder to people because you never know what they're going through. That is literally rule number 1 in my book. Be
an advocate for world peace, as I like to say, you know, the overall, you know,
overall goal.
Yes, the overall goal that I think we should maybe be focused on. So, this was a great conversation. So thank you, Robbie. Do you want to, if people can find you and want to follow you, where can people find you at?
I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. So my TikTok is at drunk diabetic. You know, I'm diabetic. I'm usually drunk.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
It's pretty boring content sometimes, but I try to spice it up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then my Instagram and Twitter is both Robbie Curley, but the U is a V. So
yes. Well, I'll put all your handles too in the episode description, just in case if people want to find you and I don't know, follow you, learn more about you and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm pretty boring. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, that's okay. Boring people could be exciting too, in the way that like maybe, you know, someone else feels like they're boring and they're like, okay, like actually there's someone else like me who maybe isn't that, I don't know, excited. I don't know, like people can relate to you maybe in that way.
Yes.
That's funny. Well, thanks so much again, Robbie, for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
Yeah, exactly. And we're definitely going to do an episode in the future because we have some more, you know, topics that we're probably going to discuss. So you might see Robbie again in the future. But yeah, thanks so much again, Robbie. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Find out more about us at www.skatzchats.com. Special thanks to NK Arts, who designed our logo, Daddy Lakis for writing and producing our theme song, Joe Papadenitz for branding photos, and our friend Abby for social media.